Hey everybody, it's Jeff. As of this recording, we've got a couple days to go before our first live storytelling event. It's called Working with Death, and it'll be on Wednesday, April 18th at Café du Nord. You still have a chance, as of this, the release of this podcast, you still have a chance to get tickets in advance if you go to letsreimagine.org and just search for us, search for the title Working with Death, or just look at the Wednesday lineup. Working with Death is part of the Reimagine End of Life Festival, which is a week-long series of events concerning death and dying here in San Francisco. It's a really, really worthwhile and wonderful event that we're honored to be a part of. So we hope to see you out there on Wednesday. Go get tickets, and thanks a lot.
I now work in the morning. I start at 3 a.m. and get off at noon. So mostly I don't cover Giants games anymore.
That was news cameraman Josh Keppel. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Every week, this podcast features photographers, artists, musicians, business owners, and other San Franciscans talking about living, working, and doing their thing here. It's a great way to get to know your neighbors. Welcome to episode 25, part 1. In this podcast, Josh will talk about the day back in 2001 when he was in the right place at the right time at PacBell Park, home of the San Francisco Giants. This podcast is the first in a series of episodes we'll be doing over the course of the baseball season as the Giants celebrate their 60th year in San Francisco. Here's Josh.
Okay, so it was 2001. And this was a couple years after the home run record had been broken by McGuire and Sosa after a long time of not being broken. So there was a certain element of it didn't seem quite as historic at the time because it had just happened a few years earlier. But it was exciting as a Giants fan to have a player like Barry Bonds playing in your hometown, and we just had a new stadium that opened, and so the whole thing, I'm a lifelong Giants fan, and so when I first started working here was actually one of my first days on the job. They were putting the new sod down at the ballpark, and so I've kind of felt like my whole career here started at the same time that the new ballpark started. Nice. And so I really followed, not just as a fan, but as a journalist. So anytime big events were happening, I was always like, hey, I'll go cover that. And my friend Ted Rollins, who was a reporter I worked with, he was on board with me. So we would volunteer to, let's say, work on a Sunday because we knew that it was the last game of the season. And Bonds broke the record on Friday. And I think a lot of people just kind of thought, oh, okay, the record's broken, like story's over. And Ted and I were like, no, the last ball that gets hit, that's the story. Like, that's the one that's going to live on forever. People aren't going to think about the 71st home run.
Right.
They're going to think about whatever the last one is. So we offered to work on our Sunday.
This was the last game of the year.
The last game of the year, yeah.
Okay.
And so on that day, the U.S. started dropping bombs in Afghanistan as response to 9/11 that had been about a month earlier. So our news deciders said, hey, you guys, you can still go to the ballpark, but we don't care about Barry Bonds home run baseball anymore. We want you to cover a story about security, because that was kind of the thing going on at the time, was this heightened security, less than a month after 9/11.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, so we go there. But then, Barry Bonds is coming up to bat, and I look at Ted, and I'm just like, dude, we're going up there to see if we can get a shot of the ball. And I wasn't even sure what I was hoping to get, aside from just get video of him hitting it and maybe get a shot of the guy catching it, or not necessarily catching it, but who ends up with it, who's the newest millionaire in the Bay Area, basically. Right. It's like a lottery ticket falling out of the sky.
And or a lifelong season ticket holder.
Right.
Something.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some compensation coming for whoever ends up with that baseball.
Right. And so I was there on Friday when the 71st and second balls were hit.
And so 71 was the record breaker.
Yeah.
It had been 70.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so 71 and then 72 was hit that same night, which was also interesting that it was like, oh, wow, there's already, this guy who got the 71st ball, that's already not nearly as worth as much as the guy who has the 72nd one. And so I had scoped out this spot that's up in the arcade, up in kind of right field, and
kind of by the cable car.
It's between the cable car and those 4 like little towers that shoot water when home run gets hit.
Yes.
And there's this one little section that was for wheelchairs, and I saw it on Friday when I was there, and was like, "That's a good spot for a guy with a big camera."
It's fairly center field-ish.
You got a
shot of the arcade. You got a shot of left field. The bleachers.
Right. And so I was like, let's go to that spot, because it was mostly just an access thing for me, because you don't want to go stand in front of people that have been waiting there for an hour or two waiting to get a view, and then up shows this guy with a camera on his shoulder blocking your view.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, there's a good spot where I can kind of crouch down and get a good shot.
Can I ask real fast? Were you concerned with, and could you get a shot from there of Bonds?
I knew
that
I
far
could.
Away?
Yeah, I could totally get a shot of him. And
my camera ignorance is showing.
Yeah, no, I mean it's long. What's 300 feet away or whatever? So
probably
more
than 400. Yeah.
So I knew I could get a shot, and you have no idea where he's going to hit it.
Right.
And lo and behold, he basically hit it right to me, and I can still remember it as clear as day, where I was zoomed all the way in on him, and I had my right eye in the viewfinder and my left eye is kind of open just to get my surroundings and make sure no one's running up to me or anything.
Right.
And he hits the ball, and I zoom out, and I actually kind of lose sight of it in my viewfinder.
I was going to ask if you were already good at tracking hit baseballs.
Yeah, I don't cover sports very much. I'm a news guy, so I only cover it when there's something big going on. And I don't have one of those super amazing cameras that they use for the telecast.
Right.
I have like a news camera that I have on my shoulder. And so anyway, so I zoom out, and I just, with my other eye, I kind of survey the crowd and see where they're looking. And I just see them all kind of going straight up in the air. And so, I mean, it was really luck where I just am zooming out and just kind of following what I would imagine the trajectory to be, which ended up being exactly it. But it was an overcast day, so you can't even really see the ball when it's up in the air. And then I just kind of follow it over, and it just drops right into a guy's glove standing 10 feet away from me, maybe. And he goes right to the ground, and all the people around him, everyone's looking up at the ball. They're not looking at, who's the guy that's going to catch? Everyone thinks they're going to catch it. So they're all, and including people 5 feet away or whatever, everyone's leaning in, and this one guy catches it and goes down, and everyone almost kind of ends up on top of him, basically.
Like a scrum.
Yeah. And then for like 2 minutes, no one knows what's going on, and
at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, and my reporter had a microphone with him that we would use to interview people or whatever, and he was kind of right there. I mean, he remembers seeing a ball on the ground, but it had like sucker written on it, because people were taking balls and writing sucker, and then they would, like, a home run would get hit, and they'd throw a sucker ball into like the water or something.
People are the best.
Yeah,
it's also hilarious.
People like in kayaks or whatever,
right,
to think they hear the crowd cheering and the ball drops in, and they scurry over there and then grab it, and it says sucker on it in like black Sharpie. So Ted's down there, and I mean, it's crazy. I'm just standing there going, what is this?
How close was he?
He was right there. I mean, he was like in
kind of in
the mix, basically, because he just happened to be standing just off to my left, and that's right where it landed. So then another guy ends up with the ball and is kind of holding it up, looking at me, holding this ball up, like, and I'm the only TV camera there. There's no other anyone else there, and this was before people had cell phones with cameras on it and stuff.
The glorious
and,
days.
Yeah, and he looks up at me and is kind of like holding the ball, like showing it to me, and I kind of like take my head away from my camera, and I'm like, is that the ball? I mouth it to him, and he's like, yes, yeah, this is the ball. Wow. And no one even understands it yet, because he's not like jumping around. I think he's just as shocked as anyone else. And so he's just kind of holding the ball, and I can see written on the ball with my camera, kind of zoomed in on it, that says National League Baseball. Drawings. And yeah, and I was like, oh, there's the guy. Like, I'm not thinking anything about the guy who caught it. All happened very quickly, and
it's almost like it all came to you.
Yeah,
the ball being hit, and then the dude coming out of what I'm imagining like a cartoon cloud of, and then the guy stands up. It's like it all came to you.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm kind of like verifying it with him before anyone else even realizes what's going on. And then I believe it was like there were, by that time, some of the security, I guess, for the ballpark were like making their way over there, because this was before there was any sort of limits put on the standing room only zone. Right. Where now, if there was something like that to happen again, you'd have to have a ticket for the standing room only. But back then it was like, half the stadium could go down there, because they're thinking, hey, I want my chance.
Probably still smoke up there at that point. We're talking the ancient 17, 16 years ago, at least 16 plus. Yeah.
So then they grab him, and then I'm kind of like, oh wow, that's the guy, because again, it doesn't have sucker written on it, like that's the real deal. So he gets taken away, and it's funny because Ted and I are just shocked that it happened, and that it happened right where we were. And
there's always a chance. I remember the Barry Bonds days. There's a slight chance that he won't hit a home run during a game.
Right. Yeah.
It's rare, especially that season, but you're like, it might not.
Yeah. And I felt like, oh man, I'm so glad that we volunteered to work on our day off, and this is all worth it, and this is great. And then the funny thing was, they still wanted us to do this security story. They still didn't care about that at all.
Sun still rises.
Yeah, and we're kind of like, oh man, but this is great, but okay, whatever, we'll feed this into the sports department, So we feed our video into the sports department. And a little while later in the game, so we're still doing our security story and talking to people about if they feel safe or whatever. And a little while later in the game, we see a guy walking towards the same room where the guy with the ball went to, kind of saying like, hey, I caught the ball, and I want to see video of it showing me catch it, because I caught it and this guy stole it from me. And
you heard him say that?
Yeah. We could see him walking with some security. We just, again, happened to just kind of be standing at the right place at the right time, and saw him with some like security guys, and saying like, he was basically like, I want to see the footage of the game that show, and see if it shows me catching it. Like, little do all of us know that video's residing in my camera at that time,
right?
Because I hadn't even taken a look at it, but I had a good idea that I might have what he's looking for.
You might have Zapruder level.
Yeah. So
here.
He ends up going into the into the security office, and later when we get in the truck and actually look at a monitor, and it's like, oh my gosh, wow, that I definitely have him catching the ball. And the funny thing is it's, the video I was shooting was 30 frames in a second, and there are 19 frames of the ball in his glove.
Wow.
So it's like 2/3 of a second. But it's the kind of thing that in sporting events where they would go back to the instant replay or whatever, where you look at it and you can see him kind of close his glove on it and kind of twist the glove like towards his body, kind of pulling it in. Yeah. Now the wrinkle is that the ball it's like a snow cone catch, where you can see the top of the ball sticking out of the glove. So he did catch it, and chances are, if no one was there, it would have been a clean catch, and but it was that much easier for the ball to pop out of his glove because it was only halfway caught, essentially, or, like it was.
I might be getting ahead of your story, but is it going to boil down to, did it fall out or was it taken?
Well, it ended up being basically the guy who caught it used my video to sue the guy who ended up with it. And it ended up being kind of a historic case in California property law.
Okay.
Because it really did boil down to what is possession. Like what constitutes you possessing something?
Owning.
Yeah. Is it 2/3 of a second of catching a ball? Does that mean you have it? And or is it that you have to fight off a angry mob of people trying to take it from you before you're deemed as the owner? They held the case once it started in one day where they really were arguing property law. They did it at the Hastings Law School auditorium in front of hundreds of students.
Oh, wow.
Because again, it really, they were going back to cases from the 1700s where there were whaling ships in the ocean, and one ship fired a harpoon into a whale, and another ship came and captured the whale.
Oh my
and
God.
The first ship would say, "That's my whale. We fired the shot that got it," and they said, "No, it's mine because we actually captured the thing." And these cases were actually used in
precedent.
Yeah, in this baseball case. That's to decide
amazing.
Ownership.
Music for the podcast is by Otis McDonald, aka Joe Bigale. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. I wanted to quickly plug a show that Michelle has coming up this Thursday. That's April 19th. It's going to be an all-woman photo show over at the 1090 Gallery on Bryant Street. 1090 Bryant to be exact. Go check it out. Please remember to follow Storied San Francisco on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the episodes and Michelle's photos of storytellers are up on our website, storiedsf.com. Other ways to listen include Google Play, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. You can reach us by email at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Check back Thursday for part 2 of Josh's story.